Hello, hello, and welcome to the Fast Track to Fearless Networking Mini Summit. So this is all about how to network like a ninja. So my name is Tracy Forsyth. I'm the founder of Fast Track to Fearless. I'm a coach and mentor for the seriously talented. So I work with leaders and founders and lots of just amazingly talented people. I've had my own successful career in television, and now I want to use my experience and my expertise to empower others. Why? Because I think that too much talent goes to waste through lack of self-belief and lack of confidence. And there are things that we can do, methods that we can teach that can change that. So Fast Track to Fearless is all about giving you the confidence and the tools that you need for a fulfilled life and career. So tonight we are going to be talking about how to network like a ninja. To those of you who answered the survey, thank you very, very much. We're going to try and answer and solve as many of the problems or issues that you told us about. So just in that survey, just as a kickoff, you sort of said when you've called networking terrifying, you've called it awkward. Some of you have said it's a necessary evil. In terms of approach, some of you have said that you're a bit aimless and unstructured and wanting to fix that. We've been in a pandemic for the last 2 years. So many of you have said, how on earth do you network online? It's a real challenge, and that it's a real challenge if you're an introvert. So I want to share with you our agenda for today. So this is the agenda. The very first thing that we're going to tackle is how to network as an introvert. I'm delighted to be joined by Marielle Laguerre, who is a personal branding expert and queen of LinkedIn, which brings me nicely onto our second agenda point, which is how to network virtually. Next up, we've got a trio of super agents in the room. So these are people who network professionally. They network for a living. So they're going to talk us through how to work a room, how to win friends and influence people, and how to master the art of the follow-up. Next, we're going to have me doing my 5-step foolproof framework for any networking situation that I've honed over years and years of having to network. And believe you me, when I first started, I was very shy, very retiring. I think naturally I am still an introvert, but I can turn it on when I need to. So I'm going to be sharing with you how to do that. And then we're going to be getting to my special February offer, because it's Valentine's coming up soon. So Valentine's, Galentines, men, women, there's going to be a special offer concerning my course, Sell Yourself Fearlessly Without Feeling Like an Imposter. And then last but not least, there are going to be some Fast Track to Fearless prizes. So just actually, before we get on with things, the prizes on offer today are a lovely box of chocolates from Hotel Chocolat, a lovely bottle of pink champagne from Moet and Chandon, and then also 2 sets of mugs and notebooks from my Fast Track to Fearless collection. So all you got to do to be in it, to win it, is to put hashtag F2F networking in the comments for a chance to win. So make sure you do that. All right. Sorry, guys, I just removed myself from the stream. So the very first thing is that we're going to get onto is how to network as an introvert. And I'm going to just invite Marielle to the live. Hello, Marielle. Welcome, welcome. So
thank you.
One of the comments, I'm going to repeat one of the comments from the survey. It says, networking is an environment where only extroverts thrive. Their voices, their loud voices, drown out the introverts and send them scurrying off to the nearest mouse hole. Now, is that true?
Well, I could definitely relate to that, Tracy. I really, really can relate. And shall I share a little bit about how I would tackle that situation, or?
Yes, absolutely. What I'm going to do is just leave you for 10 minutes just to do your thing. And also just to tell everybody at home, if you've got any questions, please start posting them in the comments section. And when I come back, I'll relay them to Marielle. So over to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good afternoon. So my name is Marielle Laguerre. I wear a few hats. I'm a self-proclaimed introvert, deeply, deeply introverted. So for any of you that are feeling, that even the thought of being on camera scares you, I totally get it. But I've managed to step out of my comfort zone and create big opportunities for myself in my business and in my career as well. So I'm a speaker, I'm a LinkedIn Learning instructor, and I'm hired to deliver talks with huge companies all about visibility and personal branding. And it's a lot of my friends are surprised that I do the work that I do, given that I'm so introverted. So what I want to share with you today are just three really important tips that I've really had to learn to really get over my fear of networking and to really help me drive my career forward. Now, I want to first start off by saying I feel like networking is really, really important, whether you're in a business or whether you're in a 9 to 5, running a side hustle, whatever you're doing, networking is important for you. So it's not something that you could hide away from or try to ignore. It's something that I feel as introverts we need to work on in order to build those relationships that are essentially going to help us drive our path forward. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is recognize that networking is really important. There's no escaping it. You need to build relationships constantly in order to get to where you want to go. So we can't run away from it. So the first tip that I want to recommend for you is to focus less on yourself and focus more on your message. And this is something that took me over I would probably say 10 years to learn, is to focus less on myself, to get out of my head, and instead focus on the message that I wanted to share. So each of you has a point that you want to get across or a point of view that somebody needs to hear. So it's important that you realize how to focus on that instead of on yourself, because we can only focus on one message at a time. So when I began to focus more on my message and less on, oh my gosh, people are looking at me, I'm feeling so self-conscious, things really began to change for me. So I would invite anyone who's feeling nervous to focus less on yourself and focus more on your message. Which brings me to my second tip, which I've written down, which is to step outside of your comfort zone. Do at least one thing each week or each month that's going to challenge you as an introvert. So for me, I recognize that public speaking was really important because you're always selling your ideas. You always need to be influencing others. So I signed up to Toastmasters, even though it scared the life out of me. For any of you that aren't familiar with Toastmasters, it's a public speaking forum. They're all over the world. And it was just a great way for me to practice and to just build my confidence. So I would highly recommend that if you are really nervous about doing speaking, is that you practice, because none of us are naturally born into being a good speaker. So if you're not feeling that comfortable, I would say really work on that skill, because you are always going to need it, especially when you're networking, especially when you're approaching people in a room. You're going to need to know how to communicate your message really quickly, what it is that you do, what your elevator pitch. So it's really important to master public speaking. And my third tip, I've actually got 4 tips, but I'll close off with my third tip, which is all about creating boundaries for yourself. Especially as introverts, I think we have to be really mindful of our energy, especially in this climate. Many of us are still working from home. So it's really important that you recognize what your boundaries are and that you're not giving out too much of your energy, tiring yourself out, because burnout is really real. And especially in this climate, it could creep up on you really, really quickly. So I would say my third and final tip is about the importance of boundaries, setting boundaries so that you are managing your time. Don't feel that you have to say yes to everything. I used to be that person that couldn't say no. I would always say yes to going out, yes to whoever asked me, even though I didn't want to. So even in a networking environment, make sure that you are setting boundaries. Make sure that you don't feel like you have to be talking to everybody. You could just talk to somebody that is maybe stood by themselves. Start to build confidence by that, just taking one step at a time and working from there. So to recap, my 3 tips were, Tracy, I think we're coming up to time, but to recap, my first tip was really just to lose the fear around networking, because it's really important that we all network. To also step outside of your comfort zone, do something that scares you, practice the things like public speaking, really just practice networking, practice talking to people, whether it's online or in person. Practice goes a long way. And my third tip was around the importance of setting boundaries. Don't feel like you have to be talking to everybody in the room. You could just start small and work from there.
Brilliant.
So those are my 3 tips.
Thank you, Marielle. And I just want to go through a few of those, because like you the one of that first one, focus less on yourself and more on your message. I think that's so, it's so true. It's like, and a lot of people have sort of said, well, you know, I'm not quite sure what to say or what to do. And I do think that is, and we're going to be talking about that later, that's something definitely that people can prepare, isn't it?
Yes,
that they
exactly.
prepare their message, what it is that they're doing there and why. And the second thing, step outside your comfort zone. And that is one I really, really resonate with, because I know people might look at me now and think, oh, you know, she's just like, can talk the hind legs off a donkey, and maybe I can now, but I certainly wasn't that. I was very shy, I was very reserved, and that whole thing about practice. It was only when I went to work at a big company where I was in a leadership role and I was expected to lead the room or give presentations that I had to do it. And I remember those first few times that literally my hands would be shaking, holding the piece of paper. And you know, if I had to pick up a glass of water, I'd have to do it with 2 hands because to get it out. But the more you do it, the better it becomes. And
I could really resonate with that, Tracy. And when you think back to that time, what was going through your head out of curiosity? Like when you were shaking, when you were feeling really nervous, what was going through your mind?
What was going through my mind is that everybody's looking at me and I don't want to look stupid, and everybody's looking at me. And, you know, I think it's just that rabbit in headlights, isn't it? And I think what it is that it's like the spotlight is on you. And I think it's that thing about, in those days, I would have to have everything written down, you know, and if I lost my way, it would be terrifying. And it was only with like just continually exposing myself and well, I don't mean like that, but exposing myself to that kind of thing that you just get used to it.
And that's where the practice comes in, I think, because for a long time I used to shy away, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk up in the meeting, I don't want to say anything, I'm going to draw attention to me, everyone's going to look at me. But the more you practice, the less you care.
And going back to your first point, it's about actually, if you have a pre-prepared message or a pitch, then you've always got something to go back to. But the other thing I really liked about what you said is create boundaries for yourself. So one of my big passions is yoga. One of the big fundamental things about yoga is using your energy in the right way. And so that thing about I don't know whether you can hear my dogs barking, but kids. Okay, sorry everybody.
It's fine.
Using your energy in the right way is that I just think one of the things that I think is that when you go into a networking situation, honestly, I've got 2 teenagers in the house and neither of them are opening the door. Right, can you open the door? Right. Sorry, guys. I'm sure there's loads of mums out there that resonate with what I'm going through right now. Anyway, but one of the things I was going to say is that what I learned is that going to those big rooms full of people is that I just learned that, you know what, I'm just going to set myself a target. I'm going to chat to 3 people and have good quality conversations with them. And then after that's done, I'm just going to leave and just get home into my pajamas and watch Netflix.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds like bliss. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm thinking that you're meaning by that kind of like just create your boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I've only really learned the importance of boundaries like recently, but I think it's just like, what are your non-negotiables? What do you feel like? You don't have to say yes to everything, you know, you don't have to stay until the end of the networking event per se, or work the whole room. I think we could, as introverts, be just much more strategic and still be impactful, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Brilliant. Well, thank you for those 3 tips. Now, I just want to move on to this whole other thing about how do you network online? So I've had a couple of things. It's like, how do you network in this new world of working from home? and what do you do if you don't get a reply? So what are your tips on, you are the LinkedIn queen, and I just encourage everybody to check out Marielle on LinkedIn. She's Marielle Laguerre, Legair. She's like brilliant on LinkedIn. So
thank you, Tracy.
yeah, and she's got her own course and everything. So Marielle, tell us, how do you network on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, it's funny, I get asked this question all the time. I think it's quite a step-by-step process. I think before you even think about sending a message on LinkedIn, I think you have to be really clear on how you're positioning yourself on LinkedIn, because the first thing people are going to do when you message somebody is they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. And if you're not positioning yourself as well as you could, you're ruining potential opportunities, ruining potential relationships. So you got to make sure first and foremost that your positioning, that your profile is really, up to date, it presents you in a good light. That's the first thing. And then secondly, you want to build a rapport. That's all you're doing on LinkedIn, is building a rapport, building a relationship. And in my new LinkedIn Learning course, this is what I talk about. I talk about how to build relationships with key decision makers using LinkedIn. So it's always about you adding value to them first, rather than me trying to take from you, right? So if I come to you, Tracy, and I say, hey, Tracy, I really love that picture in the background. Can you tell me about it? And I was actually looking at that picture in the background. It looks really, I don't know if it's a woman holding a kitten or something, or a cat. Or
This one here.
Yeah.
It's a little, it's a boy, a little baby boy. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. So if I come and talk to you about that, like, that's immediately, I'm showing an interest in you, right? Showing an interest in your beautiful home. I'm building a rapport with you. Alternatively, if I come to you and say, Tracy, so I'm really interested in this book and I want you to buy it now, immediately I've killed that relationship with you, right? So similar to LinkedIn, it's the same principle. You want to build a rapport by showing interest in the person that you're trying to connect with. You do not want to be selling on LinkedIn. I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. They start trying to sell on LinkedIn. Don't do that. Just focus on building a rapport. And then if you want to invite them to a call with you, then you could maybe, take it to that next stage. But all you're doing on LinkedIn is building a rapport, building relationships. So that's really it at a very simple level.
So when you say build rapport, give us some examples of how you do that. How do you do that short of sort of emailing them?
Yeah, you could ask them questions. So, if I see people look at my profile, for instance, I say, hey, thanks for stopping by. How's everything going with you, or anything that caught your eye? Just keep it really light. Make it about them, though. I think this is the key thing where people often go wrong. They try to talk just about themselves. And I think we have to remember that people are self-interested. So just by asking very simple questions that show that you're interested in somebody is just a great way to build rapport.
And does it matter if, if you like press like or comment on their posts and stuff? Presumably that was building rapport. I don't know.
Comments are really underestimated on LinkedIn, and I'm glad that you've raised this, because they are a key part of building relationships with people. So I have, for instance, a list of, say, and I need to add you to the list, Tracy. I've got a list of, say, 5 to 6 people that because I comment on their posts always show up in my feed. And they're in a similar industry to me as well. So it's just a good way to kind of build relationships and stay in touch. So commenting is something that I recommend that you all do if you're not already doing it, because you've got to think as well, when you post on LinkedIn, you want people to comment on your post, right? You don't just want to be talking and people don't respond to you. You don't just want to be talking into the echo chamber, right? You want to be having that conversation. You want it to be reciprocal. So that's why it's important that you comment on other people's posts, because you can't expect people to return the favor if you're not doing the same. So it's
absolutely.
It's a social media for a reason. Yeah.
Social media for a reason. You know what? It took me a long time to understand that it's not just about me broadcasting. It's actually about social media. Listen, we've got a brilliant question. Hi, Yen. Lovely to see you again. Question for Marielle. What's your opinion about people who contact you who don't include a personalized message? Boo. I get random people getting in touch in expectation. I think that because we have common contacts, we'll connect. So what's the etiquette there then?
Yeah, I mean, typically it is good etiquette to always include a personalized message, but sometimes people are sending their message to you on a phone. And, just by clicking the connect button on your phone, it doesn't automatically allow you to send a personalized invite. That's an extra step. So
Okay.
I've made the mistake before of wanting to connect with somebody, clicked connect, and it's just sent the connection request. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person that just sends cold connection requests. So I would say be discerning. And, if there are people that have similar connections to you, you're interested in what they do. I see no harm in connecting. I don't connect with random people that are like, if it's a car mechanic halfway around the world, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to need a car mechanic halfway around the world. So I probably don't connect with them, but I generally do connect with most people.
Yeah. I mean, I like to have the just becauses as well. Like the people that there are people that you resonate with, people that you think are in the same sort of field as you, people who you like the posts of, and sometimes I just like if people are just interesting, I just kind of like to broaden my network like that, because you never know. And honestly, I've worked with like I've ended up working with extraordinary people that I never had the foresight to think, oh, I'm doing that because I'm going to work with them one day. Okay, we've got another question. Tara, thank you. How best to make your LinkedIn profile reflect your personal brand? That's a 2-hour webinar all in itself, but
it really is. I've got a whole framework dedicated to this, Tara. But in a nutshell, personal branding is really just your reputation. It's about becoming known for something. So, Tara, I would ask you, what do you want to be known for? Like generally in your career or in your business, what do you want to be known for? And how can you reflect that all throughout your LinkedIn page? So with your elevator pitch, you must have an elevator pitch on your LinkedIn profile. Check out my profile, for instance. Like, it's very clear what I do. You must have a cover photo. You must be using SEO keywords. Those are the 3 things that I would say that all strong LinkedIn profiles have: a strong elevator pitch, a cover photo, because that's a way to add your own unique personality. It's also a way to just assert your authority on LinkedIn as well. And the SEO words are really good because those are the words that people are going to be searching in LinkedIn for people like you. So you want to be coming up when people are searching for people like you. But those will be. Sorry, go on, Tracy.
No, sorry to interrupt. Cover picture on LinkedIn, people are you've got the little circle. I think it's a little circle that's you.
You've got your headshot,
and then the cover photo is that background. And I notice a lot of people don't use that, and it's just a chance to show your personality, your brand, brand for the whole thing. And also, like, I think that's such a good point, Marielle, about how do you want to be known? Because I always think, like, to talk to my clients about it, it's like if you were a jam on a supermarket shelf, how do you, what kind of jam do you want to be? Because that's, do you want to be, Tesco's own brand? Do you want to be the fancy whatever low sugar one, or the organic whatever? It's like, how do you want to be known? And that's how you design your profile. But that's, again, this is a whole big thing in itself. But great question.
It really is. Start with the end in mind, essentially. I think that's an important point to think about with personal branding, is to start with the end in mind. What do you want to be known for? And then reverse engineer it from there.
Brilliant one from Vicky. What's the etiquette on tagging people on LinkedIn posts? Because sometimes, actually, Marielle, I'll be on LinkedIn and I'll be tagged into a post that's got about, like 90 people tagged in. So what's the deal there?
That's a great question. I think it's shaky ground these days. And it's a perfect example, somebody today that I hadn't spoken to in like maybe 4 or 5 years tagged me in a post, and there was no reason to tag me into it. It was quite a controversial topic as well. And I just remember thinking, why would you tag me? We've not spoken in years, I don't actually think it's good etiquette to tag people. I think, I don't personally like it, to be honest with you. But I think it depends on the context. If it's a friend of mine, somebody that I talk to regularly, and they say, tag me to say, hey, Marielle, this is what I was talking about, or check this out. I think this will be great for you. But if it's somebody that's just trying to get likes or trying to get me to comment on their post because they know I've got a large, really engaged following on LinkedIn, that's a different matter. So I think it's really just about determining whether you're being tagged for a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, and you know what, people, it's like in real life, people can tell when you're being fake or not, isn't it? I mean, it's the same sort of thing. And
yeah,
I would only tag people in if I wanted to highlight them. You know, if I was writing about somebody else and I wanted to highlight their work or show them off, you know, I would tag them in there. But if it's just some random thing that you're trying to piggyback off somebody else, people see through that really quickly.
Yeah. And people are so ego driven as well on LinkedIn. It's like, can you like my post? Can you comment on my post? And I'm like, no. If I get, this is a boundaries thing as well. You know, if you get the time, then sure. But am I going to go out of my way to ask you and everyone, can you tag, you know, can you comment on my post? Like, I think it's a bit cheeky.
Yeah. Okay. So just to, we're coming up to time, but just to, in order to, in just some of the key points about networking online, we've talked a little bit about LinkedIn, is just to be mindful of every time you kind of like or comment, it then goes on your feed, doesn't it? So if you're
it alerts your whole entire network. Yeah.
So I think one of the things is, like, if you see people that you really like and want to be connected with, one of my first steps would be to like or comment on their posts, so that, you know, one, they notice me, and two, I think it's a great idea to kind of follow up and say, I loved your post on such and such. It's just to drop a nice compliment and a line, and then we move to, you know, do you fancy a chat? This is who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think it is, you know, it's like meeting someone in a bar. You don't just go up to them and say, hey, let's get married. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a process. It's just etiquette, you know?
Yeah. And actually, I was going to say something. Kate Hollingsworth says, don't ask someone to marry you on the first date.
Exactly.
It's a similar sort of thing. Yeah. But what about, like, in the past, you might have just sort of reached out to somebody on LinkedIn or virtually or social media, and they don't reply. Well, what's your what would you do then?
Yeah, if they didn't reply, I'll probably follow up, because I think in this climate, recognizing people are just juggling a lot. I think we really have to show grace and recognize that people are just busy, you know, unless somebody comes back to me and says, hey, will you stop emailing me? I will follow up, but maybe that's because I'm from a PR background and I'm just used to being persistent with people. But I see no harm in following up. I wouldn't take it personally and think, oh my gosh, this person's ignoring me. I would leave it a few days and follow up again, and just a simple short line, hey, I didn't hear from you, I would love your thoughts, and, you know, just keep it simple and try not to take anything personally.
Yeah, I concur. I would just sort of think, well, you know how quickly things go to the bottom of the inbox. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody I'm particularly keen on contacting or whatever, I would just wait a few days and then kind of like just get back and touch them and just say, listen, not sure if this has fallen to the bottom of your email box or whatever, but would love to connect with you on such and such. And then actually, to give them an out, I always say, listen, if this is altogether too cheeky a request, or you're too busy, please let me know, or let me know who else I should speak to. Just to give them an out, really. And normally what that normally means is that they get back to you straight away and go, oh, no, it was just that ...
Yeah, that's always a good approach.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So networking online, anything else to say? Oh, you know what about, like, you know, when you meet, you Zoom people or you see people online for the first time, anything about backgrounds or how you should be, or lighting or anything like that?
Yeah, I think lighting is really, really important for a start. I see people, and I don't know if it's deliberate or they're just not aware, but I always, like, I've got a window over here and I've got my light as well, my studio light. But I see a lot of people that deliberately turn their back to the light. I don't know if you've noticed that. And I'm like, why would you turn away from the window? So I think natural lighting if it's daytime. If not, buy a little studio light or something. I think lighting is really, really key. I would also say, make sure that your background is presentable at the very least, and really just listen. I would say, see it as a two-way conversation, and just make sure that you are listening as much as you're speaking. And that's all I would say. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. I know, I agree, because I come from a TV background, so I just see these as like little things. So I do think about the framing and the lighting, but there are a lot of people who will either have the camera up their nostril, and then they'll be in the dark and all that kind of thing. So I think it's like some really simple things that people can do to just help the situation.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, brilliant, Marielle. Thank you so much for that. Time is moving on, and this is the fast track to Fearless. So just to say, everybody, please do, if you like the cut of Marielle's jib, please do follow her on LinkedIn, Marielle Laguerre. She's worth it, and her LinkedIn course is out now, isn't it? So if you've got LinkedIn Learning, I think
it's just on my profile. LinkedIn Learning, all about personal branding. So check it out.
Yeah, and also, she's got a great profile. If you want to have a look at sort of how to do your LinkedIn profile, take a look at hers and mine. Mine's really good too, because I've been studying this a lot.
Yeah, yours is good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Marielle. And I'm going to remove you from this, and then we are going to move on. And thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Okay. So just to remind you, actually, before we go on, we have prizes. So you do have to stick around until the end. That's the incentive, to keep there. But because in honor of Valentine's, there's boxes of chocolate, there's a pink bottle of champagne, and there are mugs and notebooks from my Fast Track to Fearless range. So all you've got to do is put hashtag F2F networking in the comments for a chance to win a prize. And then Dima, who you haven't met yet, she's my right-hand woman, is using this special thing. It's like a, spin the wheel to come up with the prize winners. But in order to have a chance of winning a prize, you have to put that hashtag into the comments. All right. So next up, we have a trio of super agents who network for a living. There is nothing that these three do not know about networking. So I'd like to invite to the stream. Let me get them all in. Mildred, Sharon, and Sarah. And by the way, Sarah is now BAFTA nominated, or her film is Boiling Point. So we are all celebrating that. So Sarah is the executive producer of Boiling Point. So if you haven't already seen it, please do go and watch it. And we're very excited because she's been BAFTA nominated, or the film has been BAFTA nominated. So welcome, ladies.
Hi. Nice to be here. Hi.
Hiya. So one of the questions is, one of the great fears that's coming up in this survey is walking into the room. I'm going to read out one of the quotes. Walking into the room feeling like an imposter, having the sweats, the heart palpitations, and the inner voice saying, I'm not good enough, I'm going to be found out. So could somebody kick me off with, what do you do when you walk into a room? How do you work the room?
I think we all suffer from that, though, actually, and I think we can all sympathise on that point. I mean, personally speaking, you kind of have to have your game face on, which means that you actually you kind of walk in there with a purpose, and if there's someone that you really want to talk to, then you kind of you aim to go and talk to that person, but not to waste their time. You actually go over there with a specific point and reason in mind, and just go and say hello, and that's it. But I think we all have imposter syndrome, but it's very much a kind of a fake it till you make it type thing. And you just have to kind of be brave and be direct and be specific and really clear with your intention as to what you want to talk about.
Okay. So Sharon, are you telling me that as a big time agent, you still get imposter syndrome when you're walking into the room?
Listen, some of the rooms we go into, you just think, holy heck, who's that person's here? Or, there's that A-lister, or there's that person. And you just think, but I really want to talk to them. So you have to go, okay, I'm Sharon Henry. Okay, let's go do this thing. So, you have to hype yourself up, really. But yeah, of course. We're all human beings, aren't we?
Yeah. I just thought you guys are invincible, but that's so good to hear, actually. And to be honest, whenever I work with any important people, everybody's important, but like the CEOs, etc., I always make it a point to say, do you ever suffer self-doubt? And every single one of them so far has said yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah. But Mildred, how about you? How do you, what's your answer to that with people feeling like walking into the room feeling the heart palpitations and the sweats?
Well, I feel like if you walk in with no expectations, because every situation is different, you don't know what's going to happen today. And so it becomes more of an exciting thing and rather than an intimidating thing. And I think people get really caught up in this fantasy of what they think networking or working the room is supposed to be. But the thing is, it's not supposed to be anything. It's what you make it, what you're planning to get out of it today. I mean, there have been times, and both Sharon and Sarah have seen me do this, where I've walked into a room and I'm like, nope, not today. It's enough that I've been here. I've been seen. My name has been taken. Not today. And I've done what I need to do. I have a story that I can tell about this networking opportunity, and that's enough today. That's it.
So Mildred, does that go back to my earlier point, which is my kind of thing that I do, which is to set myself a target of speaking to 3 people, and once I've done, then I can leave, or what?
Yeah, but I also would encourage everyone to be more creative and more flexible about that, because you might go in and be like, I'm going to speak to 3 people. And then you arrive and you're like, no, there's not 3 people I want to speak to. That's not floating my boat today. And, there have been certain situations I've gone into where I'm like, this is not a room that I need to talk to loads of people. And if it is, today it's be seen and get out, then I pay maybe more attention about what I'm wearing that day so people remember I was there. And then that's it. Tick, done.
Oh, Mildred, you raised such a good point. I go to quite a few awards because through work, and I noticed that so many people dress all in black. And so I've actually started to wear a bright color. And I think it's partly to be visible and to be seen. So, in terms of clothes, how important do you think that is in terms of working a room or going networking?
I think it can be hugely important, but again, it depends on you and what your vibe is. And it might actually work quite well to focus on that if you are more introverted, because you're already making a statement without having to interact with anyone or say anything. You're going, I'm here. This is who I am. And it takes a lot of the pressure off having to be particularly interesting.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I think and also it gives somebody. One of the icebreakers that I would use is comment on somebody's clothing, like compliment on their clothing. So I think clothing is such a good one, really, isn't it? That's interesting that it can help you do the work for you. Sarah, can I come to you? How do you walk into the room and break the ice?
So I find with networking things, often it helps if you're going with someone. Now, this works in 2 different ways. Firstly, they might know someone. So actually you can double network together. So I always suggest, the one proviso to this is don't cling to the person that you came with. So set yourselves a mission to go and meet 2 different people or approach 2 different people that you might know and introduce them to each other. Yeah, so then you're doing a kind of collective networking. I found that works really, really well, but you must be very careful that you don't cling to the only person that you know.
Yeah, that, and also presumably you've got to be quite in sync with that person. Like you can't go with somebody who likes to, you got to have to go with somebody who's at your pace, right? So if one of you wants to go home within 5 minutes and the other one wants to stay out until 5 o'clock in the morning, that might not. Yeah, so that's a really good tip. Go with somebody else, go with some buddies, and then divide and conquer.
Exactly. And I think one thing that I would say is, and I've been guilty of this myself, don't dismiss people that don't necessarily immediately align with what you do. And this is something that I kind of found out more about. Actually, I did a menteeship with Women in Film and TV, which is where I met Tracy in the first place. And a lot of the women on that scheme, they're from different parts of the film and television industry. So I didn't know what an edit producer did. I didn't really know what an in-house PR did. And actually, by getting to know those people, it helped me understand and develop my appreciation of every little part of the industry that I'm in a way that I just wasn't aware that I didn't know before. And it has, you never know who those people might know or might introduce you to or might connect you to, or you might have someone in common with that might, you know, re-energize a relationship that you'd forgotten about or something like that. So don't limit yourselves to the people that you think that you need.
So that's actually, like, don't just go to, like, birds of a feather flock together. Like, don't just go to the people who look like you or think, you know, you think you're going to work with. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. But what about, one of the biggest things that people worry about is how to go up to people. Like how do you just start a conversation when you don't know these people? Sharon, can I come to you? Like, how do you open a conversation?
I'm quite direct, and so I'll go to someone, and if I know that, thank you, Sarah. If I know their work, then I will absolutely go up and compliment them on their work as an opening gambit, and then just start to kind of have a conversation about what they're doing in the future, what their interests are, what have they been taking on, and it's very much a kind of showing that you've done your research and know a bit about that person, so that you can actually kind of open things up. And that's where you can kind of like find your way into kind of having a meaningful back and forth and a real good discussion with them, because people love talking about themselves, basically. So if you actually kind of show someone and compliment them about their work, their background, if you've got something in common with them, that's often when you actually find people are very receptive to kind of talking to you, you know. Yeah. So flattery does help a lot. And especially in our industry, to be perfectly honest with you. So, you know, and we're obviously agents, we're good at that. So it's kind of very much about kind of stroking the ego, definitely. Yeah.
And we will have people watching tonight who aren't from the creative industries. And I think that, I mean, connect and compliment is my very first thing, is connect and compliment. You can't. Yeah. So
it works. It works across the board in any industry, really. So I don't think, you know, it's a brilliant way to kind of get on side with someone.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
And ideally it's genuine, which is
80% of the time, maybe, if you're lucky, but hey, that 20% might lead you to something else. So why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Mildred, what about you? What's your kind of like cold open? How do you walk up to a group of strangers and introduce yourself?
I think things got a lot easier for me when I realized that when you're at a networking event, it's not like a normal party or in a social event. It's not social, it's networking, it's work. So the normal social rules don't really apply. So you shouldn't really be nervous about it and going, will they like me? Is it okay if I go up to them? Of course it's okay. So you can just go up to a group of people and literally I just go, I just wanted to say hi. My name is, this is what I do. What do you do? And it's kind of expected. And anyone who makes you feel weird about doing that, that's on them, not on you. So
I know, but Mildred, that there are those situations where, and you know what, I'm going to say this, excuse my language, people have told me this is a word, cock blocking. And so excuse my language, everybody, but and I don't think it's just men, I think it's women, but there are some people who will actively turn their shoulder away so that they maybe the term I believe is when somebody's talking to the most important person in the room and they're kind of like hogging them for themselves, so that they are turning their back so you can't get in there. Now that's an exaggeration, but you know, sometimes it can feel a bit frosty. People can be in these little impenetrable cliques. So what are some of your techniques for getting in there if you need to?
I mean, I really think something as simple as just wanted to say hi. this is who I am. And if you feel uncomfortable and you then need to get out, great. Again, it's not personal. It's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on the person who's being rude and doesn't understand the rules. So I've learned not to take that personally at all and just go, okay, I've tried. I've said my piece. I've done the right thing. It doesn't really matter. Again, it's not like a game where you have to like put as many balls in the hoop as possible. You know, it's have a flexible and adaptable strategy. When you're done, you're done. Get out.
Yeah. But you want to be satisfied and done. You don't want to just go home like, oh, I failed at meeting people. So Sarah, what do you do? Like, how do you kind of like get into an impenetrable clique, or, you know, what are your tips?
So if there's someone in particular that you think is blocking that access, engage with them, because they're probably an egotistical narcissist themselves and would quite like to be talked to. So because then actually you naturally bring yourself into the conversation by engaging them instead of the person that they feel that they were trying to get access to. Or use follow-up. If you couldn't get to the person you wanted to talk to, email them the following day. I'm so sorry I didn't get a chance to speak to you yesterday, but I really wanted to, you know, and catch up that way. It's a really good opportunity to say, I did see you, I did try to get to you, I couldn't, but let's start a new conversation. And then it's more open that way.
Yeah. And do you think there's anything physical you can do? I mean, I don't mean like literally push people out of the way, but is there...
in the face now.
No,
I do think there's something in being tactile though, and I know that's not for everyone, but sometimes just, you know, putting a hand on someone's shoulder or just, you know, trying to maneuver past it and engage them in that way, I think can sometimes help. But that is totally dependent on whether you feel comfortable doing that.
Yes, and obviously, I mean, being touched these days is like, you know, it can open up a whole other kind of worms. But I think that,
I think
you can ask for help as well. So if I were in a room with Sarah and Sharon and this were happening, I'd probably walk over to Sarah and Sharon and be like, hey, I really want to meet this person. Can you guys help me out? And you guys wouldn't you? You would come with me and we'd probably solve the problem.
So that goes back to having a buddy system, is that basically you go in and force and muscle in. Yeah.
And actually, if you are networking with a group, and you know you do set yourselves a limit of an hour or 2 hours, if you then kind of plan, you know, this is not always the way, but if you are able to go and debrief together or debrief via WhatsApp, your WhatsApp group or whatever afterwards, that's quite a nice way of just going, oh, I met so-and-so, oh, I didn't get to meet them, oh, actually, I've got her number, I've got her email, we were talking about this, if you wanted to engage in that way, and that kind of thing. You know, I do think there's a lot to be said for working in teams.
Yeah,
we've got a lot done. Mildred and Sharon and I have got a lot done in the last, you know, year and a half with our diversity campaigning, just by all working together and sharing that information.
Yeah. Sharon, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, if you've actually gone and met that person and had a really good interaction with that person, you can say, listen, I just wanted to introduce you to my 2 colleagues because we're all of a very similar mind, and I just thought it'd be really useful for you to meet them as well. So that's also a really good way to kind of get back in there, because that contact's already been made. You know what I mean? So I think that's also really useful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like being that really good host at a party, isn't it? Is it sort of imagining it's your party and like, oh, you know, can I introduce you to somebody, and can I, you know, mix and mingle and have you met you know, so and so. And I also think that helps if you feel awkward about just standing and doing nothing. It gives yourself something to do, is like meet so and so, or you know, it just gives you something to do, doesn't it? It's like the equivalent of taking around the you know, like when you're taking around the tray of sausage rolls, isn't it? It's like, you know, it gives you something to do.
Yeah.
I also think,
sorry, Mildred.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't see it as a one-chance saloon. You know, I think lots of people get really desperate, and it's like, no, the networking event, when you meet someone there, that's just the beginning. If you don't have an incredibly meaningful conversation that night, you know, that's cool. It's the first step in building a long-term relationship. And as we know, any relationship isn't built on one moment or one evening or one conversation.
Yes, and that goes back again to don't expect to marry somebody on the first date. It's like making a good impression. And then so what about one of the things that I've always wondered about is there a way to work the room? You know, like you hear about famous people just being able to work the room. So do you guys have a technique for working the room?
No, not really. I think you just have to go. I think sometimes networking is a bit of a dirty word. You're actually just going to talk to people.
Yeah.
You don't have to impress everybody there. It's just, making a connection, even if it's just one. Or as Mildred says, if you really don't feel like it, just turn around and go back out. But realistically,
but if you've got to do it, if you've got to make connections, if you've got to get a job, you've got to do it, right? So,
exactly. It's only going to help you, and if you've got to put yourself through it for a little bit, just bite the bullet and do it. And
okay, well, I just want to share with you what my thing is, and maybe you're all going to think I'm really crazy, but what I do is I go in a figure of 8, right? So you kind of think, right, instead of standing there with like feeling like Johnny no mates. So what I do is, like, if I've suddenly got nobody to talk to, then I'll work the room in a figure of 8. So I can always pretend that I'm kind of like either going to get a drink, going to the loo, etc., or there's some interesting person over there. And then I will just go back. And that way, if I do a figure of 8, I kind of like see who's in the room and hopefully on that journey find somebody to talk to.
No, I've gone into rooms and I've actually said, hello, who are you? And then start a conversation that way. And what do you do?
I've seen her do that.
Yeah, I do, because I'm just thinking, we all know what we're here for, so let's go and have a chat. And that just opens the door because it takes the awkwardness out of it for people.
Yes. The awkwardness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Oh, look, we've got a question. Kate, thank you. Ooh, that's good. So if you have a rubbish first chat with someone, do you think you should go back at another time? Oh, do you mean, I wonder if, Kate, do you mean on the same night? If you have a rubbish conversation, should you do the figure of 8 and hope that they don't remember that and go back? Yeah. What would you do about that if you have a rubbish conversation? No?
I would just leave it. Yeah. I'd be like, it's the one chance saloon thing. Like, well, that's just not happening today. So that's fine. There's lots of other opportunities and things that could happen. So I know that one's not going to work out tonight. So that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
You could always follow up in an email saying, I'm really sorry for the rubbish chat. I'd really love to kind of sit down and talk with you further. I am more interesting than my initial gambit, but I've got many things I'd love to talk to you about. So you can follow up that way.
Humor.
Yeah, it's very important.
So one of the other things that has come up in the survey is how do you push the conversation further? So you meet somebody for the first time, but what are your techniques in following up? So people are worried about being pushy. Now pushy I just call being passionate and determined, and so I don't have an issue with being pushy. But what are your tips for following up?
Don't leave it too long. Don't leave it, 3 months and then go, oh, do you remember me from this event? Because they probably have done 50 other events since then. And also there's probably 100 other people who may have followed up and you're further down the line. So make sure you do it time efficiently within a week or a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So do it quickly. Yeah. Anything else? How to, in terms of following up?
Make sure that you are genuine and authentic, and it's always really nice to remember a bit of a great conversation you had or a connection you made. Like, I remember when I met Sarah at a networking event, she sent me a great follow-up email where it was just like, it was so lovely to meet you. I felt like we had so much in common. And it was like there was an immediate connection there. And, so what you're seeing here is actually a relationship that has developed off of a meeting at a networking event. So it does happen, guys. It does happen.
Yeah. And actually, Sharon, you mentioned that, didn't you? It's like find out what you've got in common. Like how do you do that? Do you have like certain questions that are brilliant, like in the same way that you said, who are you? But like, yeah.
I'm quite straightforward. So if I know someone in particular is going to be at an event and I want to talk to that person, I will research up before I go to this event. And then it could just be the one thing that they're passionate about, and so you kind of hone in on that. And then it's literally just, oh, I really loved your work on blah, 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 and I would really love to kind of like talk to you about it further. Can we follow up? I think could do it that way. But also then to, as Sarah was saying, I would certainly do an acknowledgement email the next day and saying, it was so brilliant to talk to you.
Yeah.
Oh, have we lost Sharon? Yeah. Sarah, tell us about your follow-up email.
Well, I think probably for us, it's quite interesting because we, as agents, the three of us
Last night, we'd love to kind of like continue this chat.
Oh, Sharon, we missed you. You froze and then you went fast forward. So we just missed that last bit about the follow-up.
Yeah, it was literally just about acknowledging that you had a really good conversation and dropping in bits of what you actually just, and just actually asking if you could kind of follow up in person or continue the conversation, really.
Yeah. Sarah.
Oh, I was just saying for us, you know, the three of us, we are we're in the tiny minority of agents that are working at the moment in this industry, and so we naturally have something that's kind of brought us together. And sometimes when you're the only two brown people in the room, you kind of look at each other like, okay, we've got something to connect on. And I think that's really important. I think we've all kind of said it. If you found something that you've connected on,
yeah, just
reiterate it or just connect back to it and say, you know, and share the experiences that you're having. I think that when you're open and yourself, and I think people will respond to that.
Yeah, connection. And I think in order to make a good connection, you've really got to be a good listener, haven't you? And pick up on what people are saying. Yeah.
But I think oftentimes what's really interesting is that people connect on something that has nothing to do with business. You know, it could be your kids, it could be, you know, the rain, it could be COVID, it could be anything. And that's also a really good way in. You don't always have to be on, because that's tedious and boring. So actually, it could just be a chat about, oh my God, how did you get here? How was it? Something mundane, but it will lead you into something a bit more authentic and genuine.
Yeah, be human. It doesn't all have to be, you don't have to be like a professor in whatever the subject matter is. So being human, connection. Okay. Definitely. I just want to invite anybody to ask any questions while we still got the three super agents here. One of the things I am going to ask you about which is a question, is what do you do, or this is one of somebody's fear, getting trapped with a dull person and not wanting to leave them standing on their own?
I'd leave them. I'm just popping to the loo. See you in a minute. I've used that quite a few times.
You can introduce them to someone else you've already met.
Yeah, and then run away.
Tell them how lovely it was to meet them, and that you're going to go and chat with some other people, and that they should too.
Yes.
Oh, that's so forward.
Yeah.
Nice. You're so nice, Mildred.
Well, this is going to be one of my tips later, but this is definitely what I do, is that it's not so much if I'm stuck with somebody that's dull, because I find most people interesting, but it's just like I say, oh, well, I won't keep you, sort of like what Mildred says, so lovely to meet you, I won't keep you, you must be really busy, or you must have other people to talk to, so lovely to meet you, and that way. So, or Sarah's tip, meet them to somebody else. Maybe I have done Sharon's tip as well, just pretend to go to the loo. Those are three options. All right. Yeah.
I'm very straightforward, so I'll just say to someone, "Oh, I've got to go now," and then I'll just wander off and go and meet somebody else. So,
yeah. Or like, I think it's like, okay, then, great to meet you. Let's mingle. Let's mingle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're there to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to go grab another drink. That's another good one as well, and then start talking to someone who's also getting a drink.
Because I think the worst thing that makes everybody feel dreadful is when people are looking over your shoulder to see who else is in the room. And I think I just think if you find somebody doing that to you, it's time to say, okay, I won't keep you, there's lots of other people in the room that, we both need to speak to. So let's go, So don't, and maybe I also think brevity is the soul of wit, like wrap it up first. Before you sense somebody looking over your shoulder. Anyway. All right. Well, listen, thank you. Anybody got any more other questions? Keep them coming. Otherwise, we're going to move on and we'll address them. But well, for the time being, I just want to thank you all so much for that. We are loving all the tips. And what we're going to do, people, is that Dima and I are going to put together a not a cheat sheet, but just like a fact sheet of the whole evening with all these tips. So and send them out. So make sure you're on the mailing list for fasttracktoFearless.com and you will get that. But thank you very much to Mildred, Sarah, and Sharon for taking the time to share your expertise. And we're going to report back when we've used your tips. So all right, brilliant, thank you. So thank you, and there's lots of thank yous from the viewers. Thank you, ladies, and lots of great advice. Oh, hang on, what is that one? If you end up, one last point from Lucy. Hi, Lucy. This probably comes back to Marielle's point about boundaries. If you end up babysitting at these events, you will dread them more. Yeah, as Mildred said, it's work, and it's not our job to look after others too much. Yeah, brilliant. All right, so thank you, ladies, and moving on, I'm going to remove you and say thank you. So just to remind you all of those prizes, so just remember that if you want to win, be in it to win it, then you have to put a hashtag F2F networking in the comments. Right. The next thing we're going to do is I am going to teach you my 5-step foolproof networking framework, which I believe works in any situation. So the 5 steps, and I'm going to go through these in more detail, are titled Connect and Complement. Number 2 is Your Pitch. Number 3 is Get Curious. Number 4 is Be Clear about what you want. And number 5 is Keep It Brief. So what do I mean by that? So the very first thing, and you've heard some of those agents and Marielle talk about this, connect and complement. So whether you're meeting somebody in person, whether you're emailing somebody, whether you are on a call, connect and complement. So that means like find something, find a connection, no matter how tenuous, like they knew somebody that you knew, or somebody's recommended them, or you to them, or that you've just seen them on a panel, or that you love the post that they've just done, and compliment them. So say something nice about them. I don't know anybody that does not like a compliment. There are plenty of people who bat away compliments, but I don't know anybody, no matter how important, who doesn't like hearing something nice about them. So I always think that the more important you get at those networking events, the more scared people are to talk to you, and the less people think you need to hear a compliment. So if you're ever at those festivals or those conferences where there are speakers doing talks and you get to bump into them afterwards in the loo or in the networking thing, I would always go up and connect and compliment them, because even those people get worried. Even they feel like an imposter. So connect and compliment, find something. So that's the first one. Second one is and Marielle spoke to this, it is like having your message ready. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the course that I do, which really helps you nail this. But have your pitch ready on the simplest form. It is basically who you are, what do you do, and how. So what I mean is, like, are you a brilliant filmmaker? Are you a really innovative HR director? Are you who are you and what do you do? And number 3, what are you known for? So just a few things that you've done this, you've done that. People may have heard of you because you've done such and such, or whatever it is. So who you are, what you do, and what you're known for. So at the very, very least, prepare that before you go to any networking event. Write it down, try it out in the mirror, make sure that your lips can get around the words. Just find a language where you can do that. Who you are, what you do, and what you're known for. And what I mean by what you're known for is just like, what are some of your greatest hits? Or what have you just been working on? Where have you worked? That kind of thing. So go prepared so that you're not standing there thinking, I don't know what to say. All right, next one, number 3. and Sharon talked about this, is find common ground. Now, I call this the get curious phase. And I think actually, was it Marielle who said, I can't remember who it was that said, it's not just about you. Not just about you. The easiest way I find to start a conversation and to keep it going is to ask about the other person. And if you ask open-ended questions, so that's a question that is not doesn't require a yes or no. A closed question is one that gets a yes or a no answer. So ask open-ended questions to really get them to start talking. So one of the greatest books I think I've ever read is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And one of the things that he says is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And in the same way, I think it applies to networking, is seek first to understand. So get curious about the other person and then to be understood. So, and then to tell them, you know, what you think about that. So if you ask open-ended questions, you are in a way sort of mining for data, like going through what's there. And the more data you have there from the other person, the more relevant the more relevant your pitch and your message will be, and how you'll know how to tailor it. So ask open-ended questions, open up the conversation, and really, and this sounds really silly, but I mean it, really listen to the answers. Really listen to the answers so that you can build on what they're saying. So you might have heard that this technique, yes and. So no matter what somebody says to you, go, yes, and ... So it's like building on what people are saying. So it's really getting curious and building that connection and that common ground. So so open-ended questions, listening to the answers. And actually another brilliant quote that I like, I think it's brilliant anyway, is that being heard is so close to being loved that for most people there is no difference. So being heard, being listened to is just such an incredibly powerful thing for people, that if in a networking situation, if you're asking questions and really listening to the answers and sort of playing back what you're hearing, then people will find that you will feel a connection. So it really builds a nice relationship. So when you've kind of like asked open-ended questions, listened to the answers, built on what they've said, then link it back to you. What is relevant out of everything that they've said that you could link back to you? So what are the connections there? What is the value that you can add? So again, I can't remember who said it. It's not just about, I think maybe it was Mildred and Marielle, but it's not just about you, it's about them. So think about how you can add value to them. Give. Give before taking. So just really, I think when you're networking, part of selling yourself, part of pitching yourself is proving your value. And in this kind of networking conversations, think about ways that you can add value to that person's life, either by saying supportive comments, either by giving them some information that might be useful to them, either by sort of like saying, actually, you know, have you seen such and such? Have you read such and such? Or I know so-and-so, would you like an introduction? So add value. All right, next one. Okay, be clear and direct about what you want. So say, for example, you've had a great conversation with somebody, and maybe you haven't had a great conversation with somebody, but there's some sort of next step that you think would be useful. Just be really clear and direct about what it is that you want. So these are just some of the things, like, I'd really love to follow up and do such and such. Or if you meet somebody that you think is interesting but can't really work out, well, what would the follow-up be? It might just be like, you know what, I'd love to stay on your radar, because one day, you know, you might need somebody like me, or actually one day I might need somebody like you. So I use that a lot. I'd love to stay on your radar, just to remain present, remain present in their network. I'd like to have you in my, as I said right at the very beginning, I've ended up working with people that I started a relationship with like 10 years ago and never worked with, you know, and then it's sort of like one of the ways of building out your network. So network goes up, sideways, downways, the whole shebang. So stay on each other's radar. You never know when you might be useful to each other. And you might just like being professional friends. So these are some of the things that I'd say, oh, I would love to share such and such with you. Or I'd love a recommendation. You know, do you have anybody that is looking for somebody like me? I would love to connect you with, I was just like sitting next to somebody at a dinner, and there was something that we connected on. And then sure enough, the next day, we made a connection, introduced each other to some other people, and there's a whole new relationship there. So, but be clear and direct. Don't be vague about it. Just don't hope, that whole thing about don't wait for the phone to ring. It's like, this is one of the ways that you don't wait for the phone to ring. It's like being clear and direct about what you want. And then my fifth step is wrap it up. Wrap it up. So I mentioned this, brevity is the soul of wit. I think that was Oscar Wilde, but I think it works really well in networking situations. Is don't wait until you are both looking over each other's shoulders to see who else is in the room. Just wrap it up. It's better to have a short, impactful conversation than really, really to drag it out and really start kind of like desperately scrambling around for something else to say. So even if, the only thing left is to go home, then I still think brevity is the soul of wit. And these are some of the things that I would say. Listen, I won't keep you. You must be really busy. There's loads of other people in the room. Let's mingle. Should we mingle? Should we go for it? And then Sarah, I think, said this, can I introduce you to such and such? And then you exit stage left. And then the wrap it up with the ball in your court is really about establishing how you will keep in touch and how you will follow up before you separate. So this is to avoid that whole thing of like, oh, I met this really interesting woman at such and such, and she's really she's amazing at this, that, and the other, and then never hearing from her again. So before you go, just when you wrap it up, make sure, if possible, the ball is in your court in terms of following up. It's like, okay, so do I have your contact details? I'm going to follow up. I'm going to send you an email, or I'm going to link in with you and follow up with that recommendation or whatever. So make sure you are clear about how the follow up is going to happen. All right, so those are my five bits. Just to recap, I'm just going to go back. So connect and compliment, do your pitch, get curious, build a connection, be clear about what you want, keep it brief, and then wrap it up with the ball in your court. So let me know if you've got any questions. And then what was the next thing? Just a reminder of those prizes before we get on to the last bit. How are we doing for time? Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes to go. And so I just wanted to let you know about a special offer that I am doing because it is Valentine's Day and Galentine's Day. So one of the things that I have on my Fast Track to Fearless virtual academy is a course called Sell Yourself Fearlessly Without Feeling Like an Imposter. And I created this because so many of my clients said, one, I don't know how to pitch myself. I don't know how to do my elevator pitch. And two, when I'm doing it, when I'm trying to sell myself, I either feel like I'm boasting or I feel like I'm an imposter. So I thought, right, well, let's just sort this out once and for all. So I came up with a course and there's going to be a special offer. So here we go. So this is for you if you are ambitious and wanting to grow your career. If you are talented and hardworking, but worried that you have nothing to say. I can't tell you how many talented people I work with who say, I just don't know. I don't have anything to say about myself. You do. You're sitting on a mountain of assets and achievements that you could talk about. Okay, so this is for you if you get frustrated because you're thinking that you're underselling yourself, and I can guarantee you probably are, or you get tongue-tied and you need a script. And if you feel like you're an imposter or you're boasting. Okay, this is perfectly for you. This is what I designed it for. So I came up with this system because, one, I've walked the walk and talked the talk in my 30-year career. I was shy, retiring, awkward. People used to say I was very awkward and abrupt. And I have learned how to sell myself fearlessly without feeling like an imposter. And I've used my skills both from real life and my skills as a professional coach to really get into the deep stuff about imposter syndrome and self-belief, but also come up with a fast, focused and fun process, because I worked in entertainment, to solve the issue. So the course, it's a self-paced online course, so you can do it entirely at your own pace, different modules. And the method is this. First of all, we deal with the imposter syndrome. So the limiting beliefs that you might have, the inner talk track that says you're this, you're that, you're not this, you're not that. So we get to the bottom of what that says about you, what normally an inner critic or that limiting sort of self-belief is linked to either fears or a value that you hold dear that is not being expressed or addressed. So we get to the heart of your limiting beliefs and your inner critic. Next, we set the vision for how you want to be known, because I'm a big fan of begin with the end in mind. We heard it earlier today. So how do you want to know? How do you want to be known? What is the vision? How would you like to be described? Next, we create a pitch. It's like a pyramid structure based on your real life experiences and expertise, so that you are using real life examples from your career to sell that kind of elevator pitch. So we build an elevator pitch as a step-by-step process to teach you how to do an elevator pitch using all the words that are authentic to you, your authentic experiences, so you don't feel like an imposter because it's factually correct, but also that sells you in a way that you would like to be known. And the result is that you feel fearless, selling yourself without feeling like an imposter. So lots of people have taken the course already. These are some of the testimonials that I've had. You know, it was a game changer, tools and techniques that are useful, effective, easy to remember. The course was so clear to the point that it was perfect. Thank you very much. And it's fast and focused. So how it works, it's 6 modules online taught by me, plus a downloadable workbook. It's on a platform called Teachable. It's self-paced. You can go over it as many times as you like. The course cost is £497, but, and this is the offer. So the offer is that you get 2 bonuses. The first bonus is how to use another course that I did. It's a smaller course, how to use feedback for a fantastic profile course. So if you've ever struggled with that about me section at the top of LinkedIn or the top of your CV, this is for you. It's like, how do you write that bit using language that feels natural and that helps you stand out. So this course will help you with that. I used to be like that. I used to be struggling with that about me section until I used this process. And now this is how I describe myself, because this is how other people have described me. Life and game changing coach. It's a revelatory experience working with me, empowering, etc., etc. So I would never have used these words about myself, but because I've had feedback, asked for feedback using this system and got that feedback, I now feel empowered to talk about myself in that way. All right. So this is that course, how the step-by-step processes shows you how to ask for feedback with questions that are designed to get the answers that will be fantastic for you to use in your profile. It shows you how to use that feedback and pull out those words in your profile and how to put it all together to really crack that about me section. So the second bonus is that you get a power hour one-to-one coaching session with me. So in this session, we can do whatever you want, whether you want to work on your profile, your pitch, whether you want to talk about your inner critic, whatever it is, it's a power hour with me. And so that is worth £500. But so the investment is this. So you get the Sell Yourself Fearlessly course, you get the feedback course, and you get the power hour with me. So normally if you were going to buy those separately, it would be over £1,000. But the special offer is that you get, the special February offer is that you get all three for the price of one, for £497. So if you are interested in doing that, that offer is going to be open until the end of February. And Dima is going to post in the comments the link to that. And if you don't want to click on that link, the other way of doing it is going on to fasttracktoFearless.com, my website, clicking on courses, and then scrolling down to Sell Yourself Fearlessly Without Feeling Like an Imposter, and clicking there. So the offer is open until the end of February. It's a special Valentine's offer for February. After that, the course will go back to, they will go back to these original prices. So it's just a time limited offer for February. All right. So there we go. Oh, hang on. What's the question? Do you have a good open-ended question you use a lot? One that works well for you? Oh gosh, that's such a great question. That is, I would say things like, well, you know what a really brilliant question is? What does success look like? So what is it that you're wanting? What is it that, anything like big and expansive like that? So what's next for you? Or what are you hoping for? All of those things are like open-ended questions. And actually, when we do the cheat sheet, well, I'll add some open-ended questions in there. Right, we are fast running out of time. So, oh yeah, that's just my website. If you want to join that course and take advantage of that offer, fasttracktoFearless.com. And if you're not already on my mailing list, you might already be, but if you're not, and you like what you have seen so far, please do join so that you'll get weekly emails from me, words of wisdom about career confidence and self-belief, and also get news of any other webinars that I'll be doing. All right, finally, are we ready? Are you still here? Time for the Fast Track to Fearless Mini Summit prizes. So Dima, are you there? Dima. Okay, so these are, we've got 2 sets of Fast Track to Fearless mugs and notebooks. So I'm going to be asking Dima to spin the wheel and tell me who has won those. Dima, how do I know? Is it going to come up on the comments or my private chat? Is it private chat? Where am I? Okay, brilliant. All right. Rachel C. TSE. Rachel C. Are you here? Are you in the house? You have won a set of Fast Track to Fearless, a mug and notebook. Okay, that's one. Who's won the other one, Dima? I kind of need some music, actually, I think. Yeah. Matt Toombs. Matt, you have won. Matt, we've met before, so I'm really happy. So you have also won a mug and a notebook. So Rachel and Matt, we will be in touch with you to organize those prizes. All right. And the next one. Now, who has, I don't know who likes chocolate here apart from me, but who has won the Hotel Chocolat box of chocolates? Dima. Let me know. Who is it? She's spinning the wheel. Spinning the StreamYard wheel. I'm waiting for the name. Rebecca Nichols. Okay, Rebecca Nichols, you are the winner of a lovely Hotel Chocolat box of chocolates. We will be getting in touch with you just to check that you like chocolate. All right, and finally, who has won the bottle of fizz? Now, by the way, if you do want something alcohol free, that is, just let us know. So it's either a bottle of pink champagne, if you prefer cider, that's fine, or something alcohol free. And last but not least, who is our final prize winner? Claire Soden. Claire Soden, congratulations. You have a bottle of something fizzy coming your way. All right, so ticker, should we have the ticker, Dima, up there? I'm going to just take this out. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this session. If you have any questions or any feedback for me, I would really, really love it. I've done one of these summits before. This is the second summit. and really enjoyed it. I like to create these things that I hope are useful to you and full of tips and tip-tastic. So anything that you would like to feedback would be really, really welcome. And I want to thank you all for turning up and sticking with it all the way through. I hope you've learned lots and lots of stuff. Please do let me know in the future whether anything particularly worked, and if you try out any of the tips. And also, if you have any of your own tips that you develop over time in terms of networking like a ninja, we would love to hear from you. So for the time being, for now, that's it. And I would like to say my motto is to be fearlessly you. Be fearlessly you. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't worry about imposter syndrome. Be fearlessly you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. And I will see you again soon. All right. Take care. Bye.